Okay, welcome to the Circular Economy 2.0. Here's the deal. Everyone in this room is a big, fat resource hog and a gross overconsumer, okay? In 2010, the World Bank estimated that we produced 3.5 million tons of solid waste per day, and that was going to double to 2025. So we're all like wasters, and this group is probably better than most people, and it's not really our fault because for like 150 years, our whole economic system has been about, getting materials and turning them into stuff and getting rid of it. Take, make, and dispose. We've been working on this. There's been conversations about the circular economy, reduce, reuse, recycle, but to really push forward and make a difference, we have to go deeper, which is what we're here to talk about today. And we're lucky to have this group to do it. It's potentially a big opportunity. There have been estimates that a real commitment to the circular economy could produce hundreds of thousands of jobs, hundreds of millions in economic growth through greater efficiency, but it requires a lot of effort beyond just recycling. So we have, on the far end, we have B. Perez from Coca-Cola, who's been at Coca-Cola for 2 decades and was previously...
Ooh, now I feel old.
No, you're accomplished.
There you go.
Previously was head of marketing for North America and now is chief sustainability officer. Kathleen McLaughlin, who previously worked at McKinsey & Company and has been at Walmart for a few years now. And Steve Howard, who previously was the founder and CEO of the Climate Group before joining IKEA. So, Kathleen, I'm going to start with you. It's been since 2005 when Walmart started this path towards sustainability. It's been a little over a decade now. You had 3 major goals at the beginning: to produce zero waste, to run your business with 100% renewable energy, and to have your suppliers produce more sustainable products. I know you've made a lot of progress in various metrics. You've doubled the efficiency of your truck fleet, which is huge because your fleet is huge. But give us your update on where the company is right now. And as you're moving, I know that Doug McMillon, the CEO, has talked about this, and you've talked about this, pushing into rewiring whole systems, not just looking for the easy gains. So what are you doing now?
Yeah. Well, we have made progress. So right now, in terms of renewable energy, we're at about 25% globally, powered by renewable energy. And we've improved our energy efficiency by 10%. So a long, long way to go, but that's a good start. In terms of waste in our own operations, we've taken out 82% of material waste streams in our operations in the US and 71% outside of the US. And then in terms of products, we've been hard at work. We work a lot with the Sustainability Consortium, so we have life cycle analyses across all of our big categories, and so that means 1,700 suppliers. We get data from them around the social and environmental impacts in the chain, and that's across 300 subcategories and 260 buyers. And so every day they're kind of working on improving the products with suppliers. I think what we've realized in the last 10 years is, what started as a focus really on our own operations, our own footprint at Walmart, has expanded into looking at the chain as a whole. Because we realized that by far and away, our biggest impact is in the broader chain. It's end to end. So from the creation of the product all the way through, not only to the consumer, but to your point, post-consumption, what happens afterward. And so we have shifted our paradigm from one of kind of take, make, consume, and let's try to minimize the resources it takes to make, to one that really is about circularity. So we still have a long way to go in terms of minimizing what gets put into products, whether you're talking about agriculture and trying to move toward more restorative agriculture or other product lines. But there's a lot more we need to do than as we transport products through e-commerce or our stores or what have you, and then with consumers, educating them and trying to improve recycling infrastructure, shared economy options for consumers and so on. So these days we have initiatives underway at each stage. So for example, at that last stage, we are starting to take steps for things like electronics take back. So in the US, we're reclaiming telephones and tablets and things like that and allowing customers to bring them back, and then we repurpose them. In some of our markets, in Chile, for example, we have 20 different material streams that we welcome back from customers on site. So, these are baby steps, but steps in the right direction. We've done a lot of work around labeling to educate consumers. So how to recycle label with the Sustainable Packaging Coalition, we're big supporters of, and we're putting in all of our private brands and trying to get our branded friends to do that too. We just changed our food labeling to be best used by dates instead of sell by or best before, so that it's clear to consumers how long they can keep something, and we're trying to educate and eliminate food waste that way. And then we've been investing in things like the Closed Loop Fund, which we helped get started. It's a social impact investment vehicle that provides low or no interest loans to municipalities and other companies to drive recycling infrastructure in cities. So those are just a few examples, and if we've got time, we can talk more about some of the other things. But I know we've got a lot to talk about.
Do your customers care about all this? I mean, do they engage with you, and when you give them a little bit of this, so they say, yes, more. We want to have more of these opportunities.
Customers do care about these issues. When we talk to customers, there's a great interest, especially among millennials, in what are we doing on our planet, right? And a recognition that social issues, environmental issues, economic issues, these things converge. They can't be separated. And you see that now in just mainstream dialogue. You've even got people like the Pope, right, coming out with his encyclical last summer on this. So there is a great recognition today that given the rise in global population, given technology, there is a need for all of us to transform the systems that we rely on. And we do hear that from our customers. I think one of the challenges is that people want that, yet they still make trade-offs. They're still interested in the economic version of a solution. And they aren't necessarily willing to pay more or do things that have them go out of their way. So, recognizing that, we're trying to find solutions that make it easy as possible for people. And sometimes that's just, doing things. We've got friends from GE in the room, and we worked very closely with them over many years to try to create an affordable CFL and then LED, just to make it easy for people to choose the green option. And that's something that we continuously try to do.
So B, Coca-Cola makes a lot of beverages. To do that, you use a lot of water, a lot of plastic, a lot of metal, a lot of glass. You've been aggressively trying to be more efficient in how you use those resources, but how do you go beyond, just like with Walmart, okay, we can get the low-hanging fruit, but where are you really pushing further to get more of this circular feel to your whole supply chain, so it's not just about, recycling some bottles?
Yeah, and just to start with the consumer as well, it's become an expectation. And so when you go to our website, the most visited section is sustainability. So the question you're asking is what everyday people are asking us all the time. And for us, it does start with water. And so I love the fact that this audience especially understands the broadest definition of circular economy is not just packaging. I think that used to be the old way people would look at it, I guess the 1.0. And 2.0 is how do you think about water, which is the most, it's a circular resource that we have. You can use it, reuse it, recycle it, clean it. And what I'd say where we're pushing is, and I have to be careful because not everyone in this room would want necessarily to drink a product that goes this far, but how do you look at technology where you can reuse the water in every aspect of your production? Now, we have a couple different pilots going on with some technologies in different facilities, which is reducing our water use by over 30% in those areas. If we took it a step further, if people would let us, imagine if you took wastewater and used it in every aspect of your business. Now, that's something that we know.
I like the way you say wastewater.
So, yeah. Well, think about it. Water is water, and if you clean it, it should be used again. And so, the one thing you have to understand, though, is just like some consumers say, well, I might be willing to pay more, but not really. Do you think that a consumer would be willing to drink it? And so we also have to follow the consumer and what they tell us how far they're willing to go while we push the edges on technology and push the dialogue. And even this packaging years ago, no one would think that this package could be made out of a plant bottle. And that reduces a reliance on fossil fuels, and it's 100% recyclable. Today we know we can produce 100% plant bottle, but it's difficult to get it commercialized. So how do you do that and bring the price points down? Well, I'd love to see the day where, and our chairman says this all the time, where you can then eat the bottle when you're done. And so how do you push the envelope to make sure that you're really looking at circular in the holistic sense and partnering with others? We partner together on the Closed Loop Fund. And so we like the fact that we can partner with retailers. We partner over here and, we mean business around carbon. Mm-hmm. So how do we continue to work together to push each other and push the limits and see how far people will let us go?
Tell us about that scarf, because it's pretty styling, but I think there's more to the story with that.
There's a lot more to this story. So it's 2 Coca-Cola bottles, and actually just here at Fortune a couple years ago, you all let us sit on stage with will.i.am, who brought to us an idea around how do you take the bottles that he was seeing at his concert venues after a show and turn them into something that would be cool. So think about bottles to bags, bottles to scarf, bottles to bikes, iPad covers, you name it. And when we started working with him, we realized it was really hard because people would have to change their manufacturing. We'd have to make sure we're truly using post-consumer recycled waste. Then how do you measure and track, and then how do you ensure that the price points are something that people would be willing to buy and that it's cool so there isn't a trade-off? Because no one wants to wear an ugly scarf. And so will.i.am sat on the stage and talked about how waste is only waste if we waste it. And how do you turn it into resource? And we're thrilled because we were in Harrods for a shop within a shop for the last year, selling side by side with the technology area. And what we found is that there was an appetite for it. These scarves sold out. 2 Coca-Cola bottles. People liked the story behind it, but they liked to wear it because it was pretty. The 6,000-pound turn bicycle, that's the fold-up bicycle, those sold out in the first couple months. And so we found that there's an appetite for it, and there are some consumers who are willing to pay the price to live a more sustainable lifestyle. So luxury and sustainability can go hand in hand.
Or even something as simple as a label, right? So the label on your garment,
Yes.
instead of using virgin fiber to make a little cotton label, we've now replaced about 80 million of those working with Avery Dennison and some others to take bottles.
That's right.
And translate that into yarn, which then can be spun into labels. So
And tell the
lot of
story.
applications.
So what I love is that what a lot of people, some people just buy the scarf because they like it. Then they start seeing the story on the label, and they realize, oh, it's 2 inside. It's 2 bottles inside, and then they feel proud. So I'm actually wearing, I think, 8 bottles right now because I have, 5 bottles in here, 2 bottles here, and maybe give me a can over here.
Steve, let me turn to you for a second. You, not long ago, spoke at an event and made some headlines because you said that the Western world had reached peak stuff. And so, first of all, I want to talk about that, but we like to make news. So I was thinking if you wanted to say something like maybe IKEA was going to get rid of the umlaut or something, had a big announcement, you could do that. But tell us why peak stuff, what it means to reach peak stuff, and in a world, you're a company outside of Walmart, you're one of the biggest companies in the world selling stuff. That doesn't sound on the surface like great news, which is why it got a lot of attention. So how is that an opportunity to be at the peak stuff point for a company like IKEA?
Absolutely. If you think the material impact of Western society, and it's definitely the West because you've got emerging markets, people coming out of poverty, it's a different story. It's 10, 20, 30, 40 years behind there. But in the West, the material intensity of society has kind of peaked. Beef peaked a while back. Maybe it's automobiles now, peak oil, different. So our material intensity has peaked, but it's at about 5 planets. It's peaked in 5 planets with what we need if you're living a US lifestyle, 3 planets in Europe. So we peaked kind of late. And the opportunity for business is for us to do exactly the sort of things that Kathleen and Bea have been talking about here. And look at how do you make your business model totally sustainable and have it within the limits of the planet. And you actually do what we should have been doing all along, which is say, what are the planetary constraints for us? And that's driven us through our sustainability strategy. So we've looked for operations and the products we make, how can we make sure that, I think actually just to say, we should frame the circular economy, we should talk about the renewable and circular economy, because we're always going to need those inputs, but we must make sure they're sustainable and renewable. So we've said, let's make sure all of the wood we use is FSC certified or recycled. We sold about 8 million cubic meters of FSC certified and recycled wood last year. We'll be at 100% by 2020. All the fish and salmon and seafood that we sell, 23 species, it's about a $250, $260 million business in IKEA. You don't think of fish when you think of IKEA, but we sell a lot of fish. That's all ASC or MSC certified, so from certified fisheries. All of our cotton from 1st of September last year is 100% BCI. So we looked at the inputs and said, let's go after all of them and make sure we're using really strong third-party standards. And then we said, okay, how can we also flip our business to be renewably powered? And we've now got 29 wind farms, and we've done about 800,000 solar panels. So we should be tracking, this year or next, we should probably hit 100% renewable power for our business. And we've invested about 1.6 billion euros into renewables. So we're a power company, renewable power company today, but we've taken energy from being a cost into a profit center, and lots of stuff on energy efficiency. And last but not least, it's about the customer. So how do we use this to drive innovation? If you think about our challenge, we can't have sustainability for the few. It's got to be sustainability for everybody. That's the 21st century challenge. That's what businesses like Coke and Walmart and IKEA need to respond to. So there, if you say we're going to make it affordable, easy, and attractive, and we know people respond, it's actually 2/3 of people are really interested and motivated. The majority of our customers are really interested, and the rest will go with it. So we've got to make it, there can be no real price premium, except on some sort of new innovative products. But generally, we've got to design it without price premium. And that's why we've done things like, with LEDs, we said we'd ban CFLs, ban halogens ourselves. 1st of September last year, we were 100% LED, but we made sure the LEDs were really affordable for people. And the customers responded. We sold 63 million LEDs last year, and we'll sell 500 million by the end of 2020. So each one of those will save energy for 20 years. We've started selling solar PV in 3 markets, and we'll roll that out into more markets. So retailing solar, this isn't a self-installation. It comes fully, it's an installed product. But again, we've said, when people are looking at solar, they want to get it from a trusted brand, because it's after your house or your car, it's your next biggest purchase potentially. So we've said we'll have IKEA salespeople in store selling you what we've guaranteed, that you've got a great price and a great product and strong guarantees behind it. So look at this as a way of innovating and meeting customer needs. And then we've driven a whole range of other products as well that can help people save energy, waste, and water.
So that's a lot of stuff you're doing on the input and the efficiency of the process. And as Kathleen mentioned, having people bring stuff back in to close the loop. I know you're starting a program where you're taking stuff back. You're having people bring their Poang chair back in, or you're collecting their mattresses or whatever. How big is that? How real is that? Are people comfortable with that? And how big an opportunity is that?
It's a fantastic, I think after sort of the whole multi-channel thing, for retail, multi-channel is a big deal in terms of transforming your business. But circular is, let's say, it's the next big thing that shapes up our businesses, because you've got to think through all the reverse logistics around this. How do you not destroy value? How do you make it easy and a natural part of the process? So we've looked at simple things like care and repair. How can we help people extend the life of products? So we ship 1 million spare parts now for people to repair things. But what we're going to do is make that much more explicit so people can repair products. We've actually looked, here in the US, we know the vast majority of people, 30% of people have sold products, household products, furniture. And most people donate them to family members when they're done with them. People don't like to get rid of good stuff. But how can you also help with those resale channels? So we've got a project which is a fun one called Save the Furniture out of Belgium, where we actually had people bring back furniture there, and that started to really take off. And there you get a voucher for the furniture, and it's sold for the same price as the voucher in the store. We'll be doing something in the Charlotte store here as a pilot in the US, the same thing next month, where we're doing a project around that, not just for IKEA furniture, but for all furniture, a sort of an amnesty for pre-loved furniture. And so I think there's a really big opportunity for us. We've also looked at people's interest in recycled content in things. So we've actually now looked at our own store waste. We looked at, it was interesting, we have a lot of cardboard, about 2 million cubic meters of cardboard. And the store cardboard is very significant. And we realized we were starting to sell it, which was good, rather than pay for it to be taken away. But then we were buying it back, and there was a massive delta, which we didn't like.
Right.
So we started to take control of that ourselves. And now we're actually making the lightest of board materials, small items of furniture, from our own recycled cardboard. And that's a great story to connect to people as well.
I want to make sure we have time to get some questions. And so people, think of your questions. We have mics roaming around, and you can raise your hand. We'll get a mic over to you. Real quick, maybe each of you could give me an example of how you see technology helping you achieve these goals, or an example of how you're using technology to move further down this circular path, like real quick, and then we'll get a couple of questions, and we'll start with Steve and go back the other way real quick.
Yeah, we signed a product purchase agreement with a company called New Light that's doing plastics, bioplastics, plastic from air and from methane. And we can enable them so we can go 100% bioplastic and recycled plastic.
Great. Kathleen?
I'll give a couple examples. So one is in food production, so precision agriculture and what that is enabling with our suppliers right back to farmers in terms of optimizing fertilizer use, which not only reduces emissions, but also helps waterways and reduces nitrogen runoff, which is a big deal. So we've set a number of goals around that, and it was one of the ways that we were able to get to remove 20 million metric tons from supply chains in the last few years. Agriculture, is a big part of that. The other one is the index, the sustainability index, which allows us to capture information about climate, waste, forests, water, worker dignity and safety, a whole range of social and environmental issues in each chain from suppliers, and aggregate that and find the opportunities for improvement. So that's been a technology that's been really exciting, and I just see that getting stronger.
Great. And B?
I'll give two, one sexy, one not. So you would expect water, that's the sexy one, and that's the one we call, internally it's called Rainmaker, and that's the one where we're looking at how much more water efficient can we become and how can we reuse that water in multiple places. And that's been phenomenal. And we have hundreds of technology initiatives around water. The one that's not so sexy but really fundamental to driving progress is a tool and a system we call the value creation model. It's internal. We created this a couple of years ago with the help of McKinsey, actually. And it's a way that our business can measure and track all the way down to the zip code level what we're actually doing, what's the impact of the water, how much are we replenishing, energy, and it takes across all of our key metrics that we're using. And then it's allowed E&Y, who assures our data, to go in and have a better view, and so we can become more transparent, which is one of our goals, is to eventually become fully transparent with everything we're doing, but we first needed to know what are we doing. And this technology tool has enabled that. It's made it easier, because it used to be either self-reported, lots of paperwork, things would get lost in the mail, and now we have an easier way to do it. So not so sexy, but fundamental to driving progress.
Great. I thought I saw a hand up here. Please remember to identify yourself real quick before you start your question. Thanks.
I'm Mike Hart. I'm the CEO of Sierra Energy here in California. Great panel, and thank you very much. One of the problems that we've run into as a company is we have a technology that takes any kind of waste and turns it into clean energy. And so we had this brilliant idea that we'd talk to large chains or big companies and say, you could put one of our systems in the back, behind your facility, take all of your waste and turn it into clean energy with a negative carbon footprint. It made a lot of sense, but one of the things we've run into with some of the very large companies we've talked to is they kind of get, I don't want to call it astroturf, but kind of fake sustainability goals by saying, oh, we recycle 80% of our stuff. But what that means is they sign a contract with a contractor who takes their waste away and says, I'm recycling it. But when you actually track them, it just goes to a landfill. And so how carefully do you guys track, actually where it goes when you turn it over to someone else?
How carefully do you track?
Yeah, I mean, for
Thanks
us,
for the question.
we have requirements in our supplier contracts, so there's some places where our bottling business is doing the work, and then there's other places where you do have to rely on partnerships. And for us, we have requirements in those contracts so we can peek under the tent and see where it's going, and there's consequences if it's not going where it should be. It's not easy, and it takes a lot of time, and it takes that process work that a lot of people don't like to do. And we have our own audit department, which also audits, and then we use external auditors if we need to. And it's not fun for the suppliers or the partners if we find something wrong. Certainly there's a mitigation period where they have a certain amount of time to course correct, but if they don't meet that requirement, then they lose the business and their reputation gets damaged. So I think that we believe in good intent. We want to work with good partners, but we do need this, check and verify process.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about waste to energy conversion. So that's something we've started to do on site for anaerobic digestion for our inedible food waste. And we've in the last year had about 25,000 tractor trailer loads of stuff that would have been diverted that we've converted to energy. But to answer your question, in the last year we implemented site-level waste management system that allows us to codify and track which vendors we're working with across our network in the US. And similar to you, it's part of our compliance process in terms of follow-through on that and subject to audits for verification.
Just briefly, we've got 100 auditors focused on social and environmental auditing in-house, so they all get audited. And increasingly, we've just taken out control of our own waste streams, so we're putting it back towards our own factories and turning it into product ourselves.
I want to try to squeeze in one more question, but it's got to be a fast question and a quick answer. So identify yourself, please.
Yes, Peter Eisenberger from Global Thermostat. I was wondering how you're beginning to factor in the notion after Paris that if we switch to a carbon-intensive economy, we don't want to cycle it. We want to sequester it. And so the normal notion that came from the old view that for other resources, you want to recycle things. When it comes to carbon, you don't. You want to store it.
I think Steve should answer that.
I get answer that one. Yeah, I actually think we need an aggressive push on renewables, really to decarbonize the energy sector, and we're all involved in that together, really pushing on the renewables side. And then actually, if you look at lots of people here can answer this question at least as well as I can, but really we want a life cycle approach to things. And recycling, like for aluminium, recycling is breathtakingly saves carbon. It's the best thing to do. So it's a product by product case.
Yeah.
Great. Really fast, I'd like to ask each of you, what is the one thing your company's not doing now that you need to be doing as soon as possible? I'll start with B.
Well, this is a journey, and I think everyone knows that. And so there's a lot that we think that we can be doing better and more of. And some of those examples would is better engaging across our 700,000 system-wide associates. And so I could talk about other initiatives and other projects, but what I'd like to say is that we believe in the power of people, and we know that as they get engaged and they help to improve our business, they also are full of ideas. And so we want to hear more from them, engage them more, and I know I need to move on. So
okay, Kathleen, lightning round.
Lightning round. Well, for me, it would just be doing more of what we're doing faster at scale, right? So, across the 150 categories or 300 that we have, we're working on the issues I talked about. How do we move more quickly in 28 countries around the world?
You've got a lot of scale. And Steve, real fast, last word.
Two things. We should be selling solar in every market, so we've got to push that out faster. And same as you, actually. We've done a limited job of really telling the story about this, and our customers want to know on the web, in the catalog, they want to read about this, they want to understand it, and they want help from us. So we need to talk to our customers more about it.
Thanks for coming to tell your story here today with us, and obviously all of you, your companies are doing really creative things.